We're sat here today as part of the urban design strand of this conversation series. We'll be looking at the importance of designing small kitchens and bathrooms. We'll be investigating the profit potential in designing these smaller rooms and considering design solutions to create small but workable areas. It's being held in memory of Marion John, a freelance kitchen designer who sadly died earlier this year. She had a real, genuine passion for the industry and the significant role that design plays in it. And she understood the need for designers to not just consider the large lifestyle featured in the glossy magazines' kitchens, but also the value of design to maximise space in the average, the everyday galleys, the L-shapes, and small bathroom spaces. Certainly, new housing statistics back up the need for smaller kitchens and bathroom design. According to the Royal Institute of British Architects, the average size of a new build one-bedroom home is just 46 square metres. I'll let you kind of gather that thought, because if you travelled up on the Jubilee line today, that's the size of a carriage. Now, RIBA's recently launched a campaign called HomeWise, headed by the presenter of Channel 4's Grand Design programme, Kevin MacLeod, to call for minimum size standards for homes. In fact, London is the only place in England with minimum size standards for newly built private and social homes, starting at 37 square metres for a one-bedroom flat. RIBA is now calling for this minimum size to apply across the country for all types of housing. And these are the refurbishments of tomorrow as well. So whether you work in new build, whether you work in refurb, small kitchens and bathrooms are becoming essential. And there's also changes in the way that we live today that echo the need for smaller kitchens and bathrooms. Almost 2.5 million men and women aged between 45 and 64 have their own home and live alone. The number of sole occupants has risen by nearly 1 million in the past 2 decades, according to the Office for National Statistics. And of the 26.4 million households currently in the UK, 7.6 million, or 29%, are made up of only one person, with the growth in single-occupant households owned by the middle-aged, and the number of people living alone has risen by more than 1 million over the past 16 years. But you don't want to hear me rattle on, and that's why I've got these two gentlemen, my design experts for today. I've already been warned. Watch for the one in the middle. Okay, so I'm joined by Russell Buckley of Stuart Henry Kitchens. He's the owner of boutique showroom on the Wirral and has over 20 years' experience in kitchens. He's been highly commended in the category Kitchen Design of the Year, part of the Designer Awards, and won a local trader award. And please welcome Stuart Irvine, owner of Ablutions Luxury Bathrooms in Colville. He's been in the industry since, how long did you say? 1978. And he fervently believes in the merit of designing for small spaces. And he's recently helped write the criteria for an award based on true design. So please feel free to ask him all about that in the Q&A. And that award will form part of the trade body, the Kitchen, Bedroom, Bathroom Specialists Association, or as I like to call it, the KBSA, for short. Okay, so as we said, this discussion is based on designing for small kitchens and bathrooms. So guys, obviously, we all look at the lifestyle kitchens, we all look at the big spaces from shows. Really, how many of your projects are those big kitchens compared to smaller spaces?
I would say in our case, 90% of kitchens are small kitchens, and the 8% are medium size and 2% are large. And large, I would say 25 foot by 25 foot, but averagely 8 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 12. That's 80% of our business.
So there's a massive market out there for the smaller kitchens.
Very, very big market.
And in terms for the bathroom, Stuart?
Well, I would agree that that percentage split is correct as far as we're concerned. The problem being that the people that are coming in, they're not motivated by the trade with the advertising that they see. So small bathrooms are not big news or big business for the home improvement press, even the trade press. All we ever see is the humongous bathrooms, the like of which most people haven't got room for, let alone afford. So,
can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry. Am I supposed to be pressing something? Is that better? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so if people, they feel, I think, like poor relation when they don't see in their magazines, in their manufacturers' adverts, they just don't see that, that they relate with what they have to what is being offered. And I think this is an area that the trade needs to address, and address fairly seriously. We've, the best ad that we've done ever in 30 odd years is one that says, it's not big, but it is clever. And it shows a designer bathroom in a space less than 6 feet square. And that really hits the spot with the people that read it.
Can I ask how much business you've made from that one ad?
Difficult to say, Philip. We don't record that, but we are good. We made it our business to be good at small bathrooms because there's millions of them. And I think that's something that the trade is missing a trick and really ought to address.
And how do you promote small bathrooms?
Well, we do a similar thing, actually, Philippa. We advertise in a small local magazine, and because we are a boutique, as you put it before, people expect us to be highly priced, and we're not. And we do an advert that says we do a full kitchen with 5 built-in appliances, which is 9 by 8 for £3,500, high specification product, and that draws people in. And we don't do that for sort of an advertising to draw people in. We try to do it to make sure people understand that you don't need to spend a fortune on a good quality, decent sized, livable living room kitchen. And the small kitchens are our bread and butter, so we have to push that we do small kitchens. And the big kitchens come to us through recommendation, through friends and work, and people talking about people. But small kitchens are, definitely what we do.
And I think you touched on it earlier. It's almost like the wow factor. We all expect the wow factor to become in a large lifestyle, open plan, loveliness. But can you actually create that wow factor in a smaller kitchen or a smaller bathroom? And how would you go about that?
Well, I think you can, but you need to have a more pragmatic approach to the design than just picking out components from your distributor's catalogue. And I think there should be more education with designers in bathroom studios as to what is possible, rather than just plonking down a 1700 by 700 bath, thinking that that's all you can do. There are things that, there are baths that are not that shape. There are basins that possibly ought to be used in a cloakroom that would be better in a small bathroom. Mm-hmm. There are toilets that project 480. There are some that project 560. If you're not aware of that, because as a designer you haven't been educated, you may pick the wrong one. So I think the trade itself could do a lot to educate the people that are designing and selling bathrooms, and the trade probably isn't doing enough. This is probably where KBSA could score a few brownie points.
So in terms of designing kitchens, then, how can you create that wow factor as well?
The wow factor, you have to create an image for your client to make them want to buy the kitchen. And it is managing the customer's expectations of what they can fit into the kitchen and what will fit into the kitchen. But by using coloured tones and using, i.e. Corian work surfaces with moulded up stands, splashbacks, good lighting, tiling. We also advise our clients on the decoration of the kitchen as well, the paint colours, the paint tones, the flooring, what style goes with what worktop colours match floors, and making the kitchen look sleek and streamlined. Even in very small kitchens, it can be done. I mean, manufacturers can do more to help that, especially in the sort of the low to middle end of the market. But yes, you can make a wow factor by using those themes in small kitchens.
Because we discussed the manufacturers slightly earlier, before we came live. And in terms of what can they do? You've just said they can do more, but what can manufacturers do more to help you guys working in these kind of confined areas?
Well, I think they could listen. I think that would be the first requirement, and listen to feedback from the retail trade, because there's not a lot of it happening. I was talking to Russell earlier, and he did have one example, I think it was Omega, but we get very little back from our manufacturers. They seem to devise a product which is good for us as far as they're concerned, and promote it where we don't think it is. I mean, the P-shaped bath in particular, I can't see the point in telling someone to have a P-shaped bath because it takes more room than an ordinary bath, and yet the bit that you sit in is just the same width as the bit you've always sat in, because you sit in the narrow end, but your feet are in the wide end, unless you want to sit on the plug hole or have the taps in your back. So why is it they don't realise this? Why is it that only the retail trade that have that?
I told you it'd be trouble, didn't I? So do you think then it takes far more skill as a designer to create a small bathroom area or small kitchen area than a large living space?
I would say skill as in thought, not as in having an interior design-led sort of look on things. I think it's more I'd hate to sort of use the cliche, think outside the box. I think you just need to be more creative with what you can do. I mean, the mid-market manufacturer who sort of off-the-shelf kitchens, who do a 930 by 930 L-shaped corner base cabinet, a lot of people who are designing kitchens will think, well, I've got a 930 by 930 corner base unit and that's all I can fit in. Omega, Chippendale Kitchens and Sheraton Kitchens, who we use, they do various standard size doors as 260 wide, 150 wide, and there's quite often in small spaces I've cut a 930 corner base unit and had a 150 door on one side and a 930 door on the other to give the customer a corner unit. So manufacturers do things, but they don't realise they're doing them, and I think they need to do them in this end of the market more as a mainstream rather than as a bespoke that we have to think about. I don't think we should sort of take away that people don't think, because there are good kitchen designers who can manufacture their own product by using bespoke products, i.e. from PWS and people like that. But there are a lot of off-the-shelf kitchens like Chippendale Kitchens, Symphony Kitchens. I think those manufacturers probably could do a bit more for the off-the-shelf peg to make design in small areas better. Okay, and Stuart?
Well,
what are you missing out on? You don't like the P shape. We've all got that. What are you missing out of as a bathroom designer? What are you desperate for the manufacturers to give to you?
Well, those things that we've been desperate for and haven't got, we've taken the bull by the horns and done it ourselves, because about 60% of our turnover is created in-house. We make our own shower enclosures, we make our own furniture, so we have got a greater control on the items that we feel are sensible for a small space. And I suppose if anybody is listening to this, look at our website, they will see a lot of ideas that could easily be copied, and I wouldn't mind if there were. We do things that are, I'll use the phrase that Russell said he didn't want to use, thinking outside the box, but shared space is vital in a small bathroom. There needs to be a bit of the bathroom that sometimes is elbow room for the basin and other times is in the shower. And you can do that if you have the components. We couldn't get the components from the trade, so we made them. So I think there is a need really for retailers to think a lot more deeply about what they're doing and to lobby for the components that are necessary, and not just to line up those out of the catalogue items.
Okay. So we're looking at, again, we're just touching on small kitchens and bathrooms. If you've just come in, if you haven't, hello, you're still here. It's good to see. Just in terms of, we've spoken about the areas of and that you're advertising them, but do these small areas necessarily mean they need to be cheap areas?
No, I don't. They don't necessarily need to be cheap. sometimes people are quite relieved to have a designer solution to a small space, and they'll probably pay us £8,000 or £9,000 instead of buying something from Bath Store for half that.
Okay.
So I don't think cost is prohibitive as far as the small bathrooms are concerned, by any means.
And in terms of kitchens, that's the same as it was?
Well, when people come in into our studio, they look at the displays and they always ask the question, how much is that display?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say to people, the display is as much as you want it to be, really, because if you put laminate worktops on, it's this much. If you put granite worktops on, it's this much. If you put corian on, it's this much. If you put basic appliances, it's this much, Neff, etc. A good example, we've just had a little old lady, she's in her 80s, and her kitchen is 9 foot long with a 4 foot return and another return of 6 foot. And that kitchen, there's probably only 7 units, integrated washing machine, integrated fridge freezer, built-in double oven, hob and corner unit. And that kitchen with quartz worktops, Neff appliances, abode sink and taps was £11,000 supplied. And we could do the same kitchen with laminate worktops and basic appliances and a basic sink for probably £2,900. So the answer to the question, you can make a kitchen as cheap or as expensive as you want it to make by managing customers' expectations of what they want.
Now, I had a question in earlier, actually, from Sean Phelan of the British Kitchen Designer Association. And I think he's been a little bit contentious, but I'll throw it at you guys. Can you actually get a workable, functional small kitchen, or is it just a large utility room?
No, you definitely can get a functional kitchen in a small room. Good storage is important. Le Mans corner storage units, pull-out drawers, pull-out accessories in the sink units, drop-down wall unit shelves. Managing the space, you can actually get a very, very good functional kitchen. Pull-out tables. We've designed a kitchen this week where the lady, when I went to the house to measure the kitchen, the worktops, I've never seen so much stuff on worktops before. And we've managed to create her more worktop space in the existing kitchen by using pull-out tables, which gives her extra work surfaces. So they are functional, yes. I think you can make small kitchens very functional, because I have a small kitchen and I also have a utility room, luckily, but you definitely can make them functional.
And the same with, can you, as we said, get that wow factor in bathrooms?
It is more difficult, obviously, because you just haven't got the ability to align it with those images that people will see in the mags. But you need to use some optical tricks as much as anything else. And we've discovered that by keeping things low, it seems to push the walls out.
Okay.
So we lower baths, for example, by just getting rid of the cradle. It means you have to make a panel, but there's a profound difference in the feel of the room when the bath has gone down by about 100 mil. Not putting mid-height units too high. We have a ruling that the tallest person or the shortest adult in the house needs to see the top of a unit, a mid-height unit. Not using wall units unless you have to. So there's a series really of little tricks that when individually perhaps don't mean much, but when stitched together, they paint a completely different picture to what you might expect.
Do you always start with the same starting point then? That's what you look at when you're designing a small space? They're the immediates?
Well, we've got our own catalogue of ideas, and dependent on the room and the brief we've collected, some of those ideas will be used and some won't. But there is a template, if you like, for the small room that we have written down. It is actually something that I've got 2 designers that work for me, and we all use the same template of ideas.
Okay, and same with you, Russ?
I think a lot of designers or kitchen designers make the mistake of when they go to measure a client's house, looking at the room as it is and not thinking as it as an empty box. I've recently done this kitchen where we've just done these 2 pull-out tables, and she had 2 of the major kitchen companies out, and she said both companies came up with exactly the same plan as each other and in exactly the same way as it is now, and couldn't think of anything else differently.
Right.
Whereas I approach it differently. I do empty the room completely, and I don't look at standard sizes. Even though worktops come in standard sizes and units come in standard sizes, I never approach it as a 600mm worktop. I can do it an 800mm worktop or a 900 worktop cut back to 750, or cut units back to 450. I mean, Sheraton kitchens, who we use, do 450 deep units anyway, so that gives it a bit of advantage. But I always look at it as an open room and try and get in what the customer's asking to get in. I absolve all solutions first, and if I can't get it in, then I'll make compromises and suggest suggestions to customers that they can do things, but look at it differently rather than looking at it as a 600mm deep worktop.
Okay, and so it sounds like you've got some go-to products, maybe, that you pick?
I've definitely got go-to products when it comes to small kitchens, and that is internal storage solutions. Either pull-out base units, rather than having a slimline base unit, i.e. a 300mm base unit, and open it with a cupboard. We put internal drawers inside and attach them to the back of the door and pull it out. Right. Le Mans corner storage units, magic corners, pull-out sink unit bins that go underneath shallow bin, because everybody needs a bin in a kitchen. So there are bins in there, eco waste bins from the likes of Hayfully and LDL, that will go underneath sink units. So right. It's maximising storage space, really.
And your go-to products, I'm assuming, are your own, Stuart?
Well, we've yet to make our own sanitary ware.
There'll be a time.
We are thinking about it, yeah.
So what do you look at then? Are there any particular products that you would be able to suggest to guys working in small bathroom spaces that's on your key list?
I don't know if there are any bath manufacturers here or might get wind of this talk, but the one bath that was our lifesaver for us over the many years has been discontinued by the people that make it.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who it is because I'm still trying to do it myself, but there is a particular bath that's only 400 wide at the feet end and 900 wide at the shower end, and it's an absolute winner for a small space, but it's no longer available. So if there's a chance here for this to get out to the bath manufacturing world, I would say, let's talk.
See, he's even doing his pitch for his own business now. There's no stopping this man. But in terms of... So you've got your go-to products, they're particular products, but what seems to be kind of more prevalent nowadays is looking at the room as a whole, so more holistic, so lighting. And we had a question earlier from Lisa Melvin, who was asking me, what part does lighting play in creating space, perhaps, in a small bathroom or small kitchen?
Well, I think it's, as I alluded to earlier, the success of the end product is the success of each individual component. Lighting is vital. Yes, a single bulb hanging in the middle of the room is not going to impress anyone, but we often do plinth lighting coupled with a mirror light, okay, and they are activated by a PIR. And they can make a small room look completely different, because what we try to do is to make the room seem like it's not the room it was.
Yeah, okay.
So that when the person goes into it for the first time, it really does think, wow. I often say, when we've finished, we want a visitor to go and say, wow, who did this for you? Not, I see you've had your bathroom done then.
Okay.
And that sums it up, really, doesn't it?
That's perfect, that's perfect. And lighting, obviously, for you then, Ross?
Run-of-the-mill kitchens, the small kitchens, are going to be around forever. So you have got to make the best of the space, and lighting is very, very important. We do, in our studio, turn off the lights in the displays, because when we go to measure people's houses, and when they come in and ask us questions, and when they give us their wish list, not one single person very rarely says, I want lighting. And we always put lighting in the design and lighting in the quotation. And they say, well, I don't really want lights. So we purposely turn off the showroom lights in the particular displays to show them what it's like without lights. And then we put them back on again. And they go, oh, we'll have lights. So I think lighting is very important, not necessarily always plinth lighting. I think that there's something out there that needs to be done with plinth lighting,
Right.
which is under integrated appliances for like the dishwashers and washing machines to get around the plinth light issue where they're on the LED strips. Under cupboard lighting and ceiling lighting is a must, and we always recommend to customers to use LED lighting as well. From the eco point of view, long-running costs and wearability. The amount of customers who've sort of had a kitchen 10, 15 years ago and have got 50-watt halogen bulbs in the ceiling, and they keep saying, I keep changing them every 2 months, and they keep blowing. And I always say to them, well, just go to the DIY shop and change them to GU10s if you want to keep what you've got now. So lighting is very, very important. It not only gives reflection, but also it gives an ambience. You don't have to have the main lighting on to have your under cupboard lighting on with plinth lights. It gives a different ambience.
Absolutely. So hopefully you begin to see the massive importance of designing these small spaces and the skill that now goes into making them quite workable. So do you then think that this should then be reflected in the awards programmes that we see coming out, and perhaps the TV programmes that we see coming out? I know you said consumer press, and I know you said trade press, thanks a lot. but in terms of, should it be wider in the environs, and how can we publicise this?
Well, what better way for small bathrooms to get more credibility or more credence than to have a category within the bathroom and kitchen awards? They're ignored totally. The awards only ever show what I would call cupboard art. They don't show design. A designer that can handle a small room is probably a cleverer guy than one that does a bigger room.
Yeah, you think they're more skilled?
And it should, you're quite right, Philippa, it should be reflected in what we see within the industry to enter as in the design competitions. So perhaps that's something they can think about.
Absolutely. And same, Russ?
Well, I have been fortunate to design some very large kitchens, and I say fortunate to design very small kitchens because I get more pleasure from designing the small kitchens than I do the large kitchens. So there should be, I think, a category in the awards programmes, KBSA, KBB Review, the KB Designer magazine. It's how you determine small. There has to be a cut-off point somewhere, and somewhere there's going to be contentions where, well, I think 12 by 12 or 15 by 15 small, and some people think 8 by 8 and some think 20 by 20. It's everybody's perception as what is small. So I think it does need to be looked at. Regarding the television programmes doing more for small kitchens, I hate them, to be honest.
Go on, tell it as it is.
Oh, well. Because they don't use kitchen designers, I don't feel, in these television programmes. They use people who think they can design kitchens, and some of the mistakes they make. And people have actually come in to me and said, I've saw this on the television programme and I want this. And I've said to them, well, that actually physically won't work in a real working kitchen. It's done for television. I had experience when I worked for one of the major companies. They did an ITV Better Homes.
Right.
And they used a designer to design the kitchen, and they came to me to sort of oversee what was going on. And I said, what you're asking for in that particular area won't work. And they were adamant that they wanted to do this particular thing for the shot. A 10-second shot at the end was just a whoosh, right. Just to get the wow factor. And on the day of the shoot, the producer of the show said, we needed to go and get something from the manufacturer because what we want to do won't work, which I'd already told them wouldn't work in the first place. So I had to go to Scunthorpe, 250 mile each way, to go and get a piece of wood.
You had me at Scunthorpe, really.
Yeah, well.
Never mind.
But television programmes need, I think, to employ kitchen designers if they're going to do that sort of thing. So it can't be done, but they need to employ kitchen designers who design, not lay out a room with cupboards.
Yeah, yeah. So it's less of an architectural feel, real designers. So really, the challenge of designing small bathrooms and kitchens isn't going to go away, is it? Do you see it's a continuing thread in your business?
Well, I think it is, and emphasis needs to be put on the technical side of the design. The point Russell was making there about the interior designers that supposedly write articles on kitchen design,
Steady.
ideas for small rooms or ideas for large rooms, and they never ever touch on anything that is within the sort of remit of true design. They're people that probably are good with blinds and cushions, but
I'm hoping there's someone here today. I really am.
Well,
I didn't say interior designers, so.
But that sort of person really shouldn't be writing an article if the heading of the article is how to design a small room. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Okay, well, told you, quiet, self-effacing, holds back.
Well, no, perhaps if there were more articles that were related to the topic that people could read and understand and get benefit from, then it might be good for the magazine.
Absolutely, good for the industry.
Good for everybody.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the profitability, we've talked about how difficult it is to design, we've talked about your go-to products, but as you slightly touched on earlier, we haven't actually said what you consider a small bathroom or kitchen to be.
Well, I'll start that one off. The ad that we've got that says it's not big but it is clever is deliberately in our showroom, and we built it 5'6", the old imperial length of a bath, by 5'6", so I can easily touch it both ways. And that's got storage, it's got a built-in, it's got a back-to-wall pan, concealed cistern, a basin, and a shower bath. And one of the things that we do, and have done for a long time, is we've made a shower screen that folds in, so that when it's not being used, it's not a permanent divider in the room. And that has a big effect on the feel of the room.
Okay.
Because if the shower screen won't go one side because it's the door, and it won't go the other side because the shower's there, then it's always in the middle. And that in itself is very intrusive. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that you can easily get some a design gain, by getting rid of.
Okay. And in terms of size, then, that's the smallest you can do?
I wouldn't want to go much smaller than 5'6" by 5'6", but I rather suspect that Russell's kitchens are bigger than that.
Yeah, I think so.
We've done a similar thing, actually, to what Stuart's done. We've got a display that's 2.7 by 2.7 by 2.7, and we've fitted everything into that display to show people what you can fit into a small space. Because we do get a lot of clients come in and say, I do read the magazines, I'm seeing these big kitchens in the magazines, but I know I'm realistic and I can't fit all that into my kitchen. But we do sort of explain to them, you can fit a lot into a small kitchen, and you don't have to compromise too much on what you actually have to live with. The small dishwashers, you can get small 8-place dishwashers. So if somebody really wants a dishwasher, and they want a small room, then they can have a dishwasher. Mm-hmm. Washing machines are slightly different. They're all standard size, unfortunately, mostly. But fridges and freezers, you can work in fridges and freezers in kitchens. You do small sinks. You can get sinks to go into 400mm base units. You can get corner storages that have a 400mm door. So we've done it to show people, and I think it's important to show people as well.
Oh, I think I've got my time up nearly. Time up. We've got 5 minutes left. So what we can do is we can sling it out to questions, and please ask Stuart something, and please be an interior designer. Any questions?
Sorry. I'm not an interior designer, I'm an architect, and we, as part of designing houses, do a lot of kitchens and bathrooms. It's part of the package quite often. Just a quick question on, or at least a comment, I think, on kitchen design, which I found quite surprising, is that although there's a lot of variability in the widths of units, there's not much variability in the depth, generally. I'm talking about most kitchen manufacturers, which to me is a bit strange, because if you're talking about integrating your kitchen, you really want a fridge freezer which is up to 800 millimeters deep if you want a proper fridge freezer. And what is strange is that although the technology now allows you to have pull-out units, which theoretically means you can go to any depth, you don't have to reach into the back of a cupboard anymore, they don't seem to have connected all these pieces together yet in terms of making deep storage units. I mean, if you've got a storage wall, if you like, where you can put in your fridge freezers and your ovens and what have you, there would be some sense, I would say, to going for more depth where you can actually pull things out of the wall and therefore have up to 200 millimeters more depth in your storage for the same width. And yet you see that, I mean, most, even the avant-garde kitchens, you'll often see the fridge freezer standing proud of the units and not fully integrated, or the whole thing is not quite an integrated system.
With the sort of the off-the-shelf kitchens, you'll probably tend to find you're probably right. Pog and Pol, for instance, they do very deep units, and when you pull one of their drawers out in one of these deep units, they come out all the way, and they keep going and going and going. Banks of units, you can be quite clever with doing those banks of units. I mean, especially with sort of American-style fridge freezers, people tend to have this thing where I want an American-style fridge freezer, and they are deeper than the standard depth unit. When we do design around American fridge freezers, we always do bring the cabinetry either side forward, although the unit itself isn't deeper, so you're right in there, the actual cabinet itself is a standard depth. Yes and no, in the respect of should manufacturers at the mid-market, low to mid-market, go deeper, because I think you are looking at a bit more bespoke end on the market, and they can do anything they want, really. But saying that, I have the facilities with the company I use for my kitchens, with one of our kitchen fitters, to actually manufacture on site, and we can actually make the cabinet slightly bigger. It does take a bit of thought from the kitchen designer. Again, that's going back to what I was saying before about looking at the room as an empty room and not thinking about it as it is. And I appreciate it's very difficult for architects because they're not actually seeing the finished product. They are seeing measurements that that you've taken, and you're putting it down on blueprints. And then you've got to sort of advise clients on what they can have based on measurements, really, rather than seeing the finished product. We've recently done made false walls where we've done what it looks like quite shallow at the bottom, but they've gone quite the way back with base units and brought a wall forward and put wall units in line with the base unit, so it looks like the wall units on the floor, but they're not. They do go right the way back. So you can be innovative with the design and make people, when they open the cupboard, say, oh, wow, I didn't expect that to be that like that. So manufacturers have got a part to play. You'll tend to find the more the all-knows of the world and Pog and Pols already do what you're asking to do, really.
Got one that's coming on Twitter. I'm not playing Candy Shop, I promise you. Can a small kitchen actually have a social function? Or is it just a utilitarian space, that's Sean feeling?
Small kitchens, like I said, we've got a small kitchen. Now, I deem it as being small. It's 9'4" by 9'6" by 9'4" in a U shape. And the way we've made our kitchen functional, luckily for us, there's no back door. We've put double doors into the kitchen. So we open up the double door into our dining room, which makes the kitchen sociable, because people can wander in and out. And you can also have breakfast bar areas that actually fold away or slide away. So you can incorporate even a small breakfast bar in any room where people gather. I know we do a lot of kitchens where people say one of the partners cooks and the other one sits and talks while they're cooking, and they want to face each other or be able to sit and talk. So yes, you can, and we've done it with small breakfast bar areas.
Hello? Hello. So my name is Pauline. I'm an interior designer. Just started recently, so don't have really big experience in kitchen or bathroom design. And could you please specify 3 main points to create clever kitchen or bathroom, or 3 main points to look at, 3 main important points to look at? Thank you.
It might be difficult to narrow it down to 3 because there's probably more like 103. But maintaining movement space whilst not inhibiting the function is difficult in a very small room. And this is where probably a bespoke design will score, because it will help on the shared space. Keeping things low so that they don't appear to be, intimidating would be a second point. And really being clever in selecting good products, basins that are very thin-walled. So if it's a 420 basin, it's 380 inside. But I could go on with lots more. I don't know whether I've summarised it sufficiently, but they're the 3 that I would think are probably the most important.
I would say with kitchens, the 3 points I would say is, in a small room, don't make things too dark. Don't be afraid to mix white with white. White cupboards with white worktops, cream cupboards with cream worktops. Don't have to be contrasts. Ergonomics is very important, because if you get the ergonomics wrong, no matter how big or small the kitchen is, you won't be able to make it functional. And thirdly, I would say definitely lighting is very important. And don't be afraid to suggest to clients about moving windows, moving doors, blocking up existing windows, opening up French doors, and moving walls around. Don't see the room as a room, see it as an option. And don't be conventional, be unconventional.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say something before we close? One of the questions that was sort of preempted to me before the show was, do we think small kitchens will be around for a long time? And given house builders at the moment, i.e. the likes of the Red Rose of the world and Barratt's, they're building houses with kitchens that you can't swing a cat in. So kitchens and bedrooms will always be small areas to be in. And if you've got a very big kitchen or a very big bathroom, you've got a luxury. So getting into the small kitchen and small bathroom market, you will enhance your design skills doing that rather than being somewhere at the top end of a studio in Wigmore Street.
Thanks for that. No, that's great. Any more questions? Well, that's it. I'd like to thank you all for coming. Thank you to Stuart. Thank you to Russell. I think you've been great. And thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of the show.